Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel. Before we begin, I'd like you to imagine something. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest. In your hand, you are holding a map. The map is detailed, clear, accurate. Every path is marked. Every turn is labeled. Every destination is shown. You look at the map. You study it carefully. And after a while, you begin to feel confident. You know where the paths go. You know where the river is. You know where the mountains are. You know where the forest ends. At least, you think you do. But then something happens. You take your first step into the forest. The ground feels different. The air feels different. The sounds feel different. And suddenly, you realize something. Knowing the map is not the same as walking the path. Perhaps life teaches this lesson again and again. Maybe you've experienced this before. Most people have. Someone gives you advice. Good advice. Wise advice. Advice that sounds completely true. You hear it. You understand the words. You even agree with them. And yet, months later, or years later, life teaches you the exact same lesson. This time, it feels different. Why? Because there is a difference between knowing something and understanding it. Knowing often happens quickly. Understanding rarely does. Imagine a child being told, "Be patient." The child hears the words. The child understands the meaning, at least on the surface. But true patience is not learned from a definition. It is learned while waiting. Waiting for something important. Waiting when the answer does not come. Waiting when progress seems invisible. Waiting when giving up feels easier. That is where understanding begins. Not in the explanation. In the experience. Life has a way of teaching us this again and again and again. Take confidence, for example. Many people know confidence is important. Most people do. You can read books about confidence, watch videos about confidence, listen to advice about confidence. The information is everywhere. But confidence itself grows differently. Confidence grows through action, through mistakes, through uncomfortable moments, through experiences that cannot be borrowed from someone else. You cannot inherit confidence. You cannot download confidence. You cannot memorize confidence. You must live it. Perhaps language learning works the same way. Many learners know grammar rules. They know vocabulary. They know expressions. They know what they should say. And yet, when the conversation begins, everything feels different. Why? Because language is not only knowledge. It is experience. Imagine reading a book about swimming. You learn about breathing. You learn about floating. You learn about movement. You learn about technique. Page after page, chapter after chapter. Eventually, you may know a great deal about swimming. But then comes the moment when you step into the water. And suddenly, everything changes. The water feels different than expected. Your body feels different than expected. The experience feels different than expected. The book was useful, very useful, but it was only the beginning. The water teaches lessons that the book never could. Perhaps life works the same way, and perhaps English works the same way. A grammar book can show the path. A teacher can show the path. A video can show the path, but eventually, you must walk the path yourself. That is where understanding begins. Imagine meeting someone who has never climbed a mountain. You explain the experience, the view, the effort, the silence, the feeling of reaching the summit. They listen carefully. They understand every word. And yet, they do not truly understand. Not yet. Because some experiences cannot be transferred. They must be lived. Many of the most important lessons in life are like that. Love, loss, patience, trust, forgiveness, resilience. The words are easy. The experiences are not. And perhaps that is why wisdom often arrives slowly. Not because wisdom is complicated, but because experience takes time. A tree cannot understand the seasons in a single day. It must live through spring, summer, autumn, winter, again, and again, and again. Only then does the tree truly know the rhythm of the year. Maybe people are the same. Maybe some truths require seasons. Perhaps that is why advice often feels different at different ages. A sentence you ignored at 20 may change your life at 40. The sentence did not change. You changed. The lesson remained the same, but your understanding grew deeper. It is a very human experience. Many people spend years collecting knowledge, and knowledge is valuable, very valuable. But knowledge and understanding are not identical. Imagine standing in front of a fireplace. You can read about warmth. You can study warmth. You can learn the science of warmth. But eventually, you must sit beside the fire. Only then do the words become real. Perhaps understanding is simply knowledge that has passed through experience. Knowledge stays in the mind. Understanding reaches the heart. Knowledge says, I know. Understanding says, I've lived it. And maybe that is why understanding feels different. It feels heavier, deeper, more personal. Because it belongs to you now, not to the book, not to the teacher, not to the speaker, to you. Life has a beautiful way of transforming knowledge this way, slowly, quietly, one experience at a time, one mistake at a time, one lesson at a time. But if understanding requires experience, then another question appears, an important question. Why do some people learn faster than others? Why do some people seem to turn experience into wisdom, while others remain stuck? What makes the difference? And perhaps that is where our story begins to go deeper. Perhaps the difference is not experience itself. After all, everyone has experiences. Everyone faces challenges. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone encounters disappointment. Yet not everyone grows in the same way. Why? Imagine two people walking through the rain. The rain falls on both of them. The wind reaches both of them. The storm treats them equally. And yet, when the storm ends, something is different. One person simply got wet. The other learned something. Perhaps life works this way more often than we realize. Experience alone is not always the teacher. Sometimes experience is only the invitation. The real lesson begins later. Maybe you've experienced this before. Most people have. Something happens. A mistake, a failure, a misunderstanding. At first, all you feel is frustration. You want the moment to end. You want to move on. You want to forget it happened. And sometimes you do. But sometimes you stop. You think about it. You revisit it. You ask questions. What happened? Why did it happen? What can I learn from it? And perhaps that is where understanding begins. Not in the experience itself, but in the reflection. Imagine standing beside a lake. The water is completely still. You can see the sky. You can see the clouds. You can even see your own reflection. Now imagine the same lake during a storm. The water moves violently. The surface becomes unclear. Nothing can be seen. Perhaps the human mind is similar. When everything is moving quickly, understanding becomes difficult. We react, we hurry, we move on. But when we become still, something changes. The lesson becomes visible. The meaning becomes visible. The truth becomes visible. Life often whispers. It rarely shouts. And because of that, many people miss the lesson. Not because the lesson is hidden, but because they are moving too fast to hear it. Imagine reading a book, then reading the same book 10 years later. The words remain identical. The pages remain identical. And yet, the experience feels completely different. Why? Because you are different. You notice things you once ignored. You understand things you once missed. You see connections that were invisible before. The book did not change. The reader changed. Perhaps life lessons work the same way. Many truths return to us, again and again and again. Each time, we understand a little more. Take patience. Most people know patience is important. They have heard it many times. But life continues teaching patience through delays, through uncertainty, through waiting. The lesson returns again and again and again, not because life forgot, but because understanding grows layer by layer. Imagine carving a sculpture from stone. The artist removes a small piece, then another, then another. The change seems insignificant, almost invisible. Yet over time, a shape begins to appear. Perhaps understanding grows in the same way, not through a single realization, but through many small realizations. One conversation, one mistake, one difficult day, one unexpected lesson, and slowly, the picture becomes clearer. Maybe this is why wisdom often appears calm. Wise people are not necessarily smarter. They are not necessarily more talented. They have simply spent more time listening. Listening to life, listening to experience, listening to themselves. A tree grows by standing still. A river grows deeper by continuing to flow. And perhaps understanding grows by paying attention, noticing, reflecting, learning again and again. Perhaps language learning teaches this better than almost anything else. At first, many learners chase knowledge, more words, more grammar, more expressions. And there is nothing wrong with that. Knowledge matters. It matters a great deal. But eventually, something interesting happens. The learner begins noticing patterns, not because someone explained them, because they have seen them many times. They begin understanding conversations more naturally, not because they memorized every sentence, because they have lived inside the language, day after day, story after story, conversation after conversation. The language slowly becomes familiar, and familiarity creates understanding. Imagine learning the name of a tree. That is knowledge. Imagine sitting beneath that tree for years, watching the seasons change, watching the leaves fall, watching new leaves return. That is understanding. One is information. The other is relationship. And perhaps that is the true difference. Knowledge collects facts. Understanding builds relationships. A relationship with an idea, a relationship with a lesson, a relationship with life itself. But there is still something deeper, because understanding does more than change what we know. It changes how we see. And perhaps that is where our story begins to go even deeper. Understanding changes something important. It changes the way we see. Maybe that sounds simple, but perhaps it is one of the most powerful changes a person can experience. Because once understanding arrives, the world often looks different. The world is not changed. The people have not changed. The situation has not changed. And yet, something feels different. Why? Because you are seeing it differently. Imagine looking at a painting. The first time, you notice the colors, the shapes, the surface. Then someone tells you the story behind the painting. Who created it? Why it was created? What it meant? Suddenly, the painting feels different. The painting did not change. Your understanding did. And understanding changed what you could see. Perhaps life works the same way. Maybe you've experienced this before. Most people have. Perhaps someone once told you, people are fighting battles you cannot see. A simple sentence. Easy to understand. Easy to agree with. But then one day, you experience something difficult yourself. Stress, loss, fear, uncertainty. And suddenly, the sentence feels different. Now when you meet people, you see them differently. You become more patient, more compassionate, more understanding. The sentence became real, not because the words changed, because you changed. Life often teaches through experience, again and again and again. Imagine a young person hearing the phrase, "Money cannot buy happiness." Most people have heard it. Many people agree with it. But years later, after chasing success, after achieving goals, after discovering that happiness is more complicated than expected, the lesson begins to feel different. The words remain the same. The understanding becomes deeper. Or imagine someone saying, "Do not compare yourself to others." Simple advice, wise advice. Many people know it. And yet, how many people truly understand it? Often, understanding arrives much later, after years of comparison, after years of frustration, after years of trying to become someone else. Only then does the lesson begin taking root. Perhaps that is the difference. Knowledge enters through the ears. Understanding enters through experience. A map can tell you where the mountain is. Only the climb can tell you what the mountain feels like. A recipe can tell you how bread is made. Only baking can teach you patience. A book can tell you about courage. Only fear can reveal what courage truly means. Life seems to prefer experience, not because information is unimportant, but because transformation requires something deeper. Imagine standing beside an old tree, a very old tree. Its roots stretch deep beneath the earth. Its branches reach toward the sky. The tree has seen storms, many storms, strong winds, heavy rain, long winters, hot summers. The tree does not become wise because it read about storms. The tree becomes strong because it survived them. Perhaps people are the same. Many of the qualities we admire most cannot be learned quickly. Patience, wisdom, resilience, compassion, trust. They are lived, slowly, quietly, one season at a time. Maybe this is why growth often feels invisible. Imagine watching the hands of a clock, second by second, minute by minute. The movement is almost impossible to notice. But return a few hours later, and everything has changed. Perhaps understanding grows the same way. Tiny moments, tiny realizations, tiny experiences, one by one, again and again and again, until eventually, a different person is standing where the old person once stood. Not a completely different person, just a deeper one, a wiser one, a more understanding one. Perhaps language learning teaches this lesson beautifully. At first, many learners focus on collecting knowledge, words, grammar, expressions, rules. And there is nothing wrong with that. Every journey begins somewhere. But eventually, the learner discovers something surprising. English is not only a collection of rules, it is a collection of experiences. A conversation that went better than expected. A story that suddenly made sense. A joke that made you laugh without translating. A podcast you understood while walking. A sentence that appeared naturally. These moments seem small, but they matter. They matter because understanding is growing. Imagine a learner studying the word patience. The definition is easy. The spelling is easy. The meaning is clear. Knowledge arrives quickly. But what happens after years of learning English? After months of progress that feels invisible? After moments of frustration? After moments of doubt? Suddenly, the word patience means something different. The learner has lived it. The word now carries weight. Perhaps every important lesson follows the same path. First, we hear it. Then, we know it. Then, we forget it. Then life teaches it again. Then we experience it. Then we struggle with it. Then we finally understand it. The process is slow, very slow. But perhaps that is the point. A lesson learned in a moment can disappear in a moment. A lesson earned through experience often stays forever. Maybe that is why life refuses to hurry. The river does not hurry. The tree does not hurry. The sunrise does not hurry. And perhaps understanding does not hurry either. Perhaps understanding arrives exactly when it is ready, not when we demand it, not when we expect it, not when we schedule it, but when experience and reflection finally meet. And when they do, something beautiful happens. The lesson stops feeling like information. It becomes wisdom. It becomes perspective. It becomes part of who you are. And perhaps that is the hidden beauty of understanding. It does not simply add something to your mind. It changes the way you see the world, the way you see people, the way you see challenges, the way you see yourself. So if you remember one thing from this story, remember this. Knowing is valuable, very valuable. But knowing is only the beginning. Understanding is the journey, a slower journey, a deeper journey, a more personal journey. And some of the most important lessons in your life may take years to fully understand. That is not failure. That is not weakness. That is simply how wisdom grows. Like a tree, like a river, like a sunrise, slowly, quietly, beautifully. Thank you for spending this time with me. And see you in the next story.